So the inclusion of Action Media as a partner elevated my concerns tremendously. And it led me to question, why would our government enable our tax dollars to be used to neutralize any opposition that we, the people, may have? It's ultimately who serves who, who's supposed to serve who. So that concern was strengthened further when we read in the grant application document in a section on page 15 in the section titled Strategy to Address Barriers and Incorporate Existing Plans. In that section, it acknowledges, quote, anticipated barriers include New Hampshire's strong tradition of individual property rights and resultant resistance to planning and zoning. You got that? Hope you don't mind. I want to read that again. Anticipated barriers include New Hampshire's strong tradition of individual property rights and resultant resistance to planning and zoning. Okay? The proposed solution in that same section to overcome our strong tradition of property rights and resultant resistance is to bring this issue to one of their committees, whose members include the DOT, DES, and OEP. This committee will, quote, work together to identify potential statewide strategies for reducing and/or eliminating the barriers. Okay? So the barrier is our is our property rights, and they will work together to find ways to reduce or eliminate that barrier. So I just want to end by saying that James Madison warned us that liberty and property are inseparable. You can't have one without the other. And the other statement that I want to quote before I leave is one that's made by Karl Marx. And as I read through all of these legally binding documents, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages, I kept saying to myself, from each according to his ability to each according to his needs. And that's what this plan is about. And if anybody approves this, with all due respect, because this is your decision to make, but if anybody approves this, they do not have, in my humble opinion, the interest of their town, their families, their town, our state, and our country at heart. This is a program that is being implemented across our country to those towns that willingly sign on. And don't buy into the fact that it's only a planning document. We are going to turn over via this plan all sorts of data, all sorts of demographic data, resource data, demographic data to our federal government. Our federal government, okay? These are the people that implemented, different programs against the wishes of the people. I don't want to sound alarmist, but do people realize that our government is flying drones in our country right now? Do you realize that?
Oh, sure.
Do you know how many drones they plan to be flying in our country within 10 years? 30,000. 30,000 drones. This is the same government that we're going to be turning over data of our most precious resources. Do we trust them to do the right thing with that, or do we trust them to turn around and then implement those plans? And these plans are not in the mindset and in the framework of a constitutional republic. So thank you very much for the opportunity to come up and talk. I very much appreciate it. I hope I was helpful.
We appreciate you coming and giving us this information. Can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
What was the color and size of the carrot they dangled in front of Wyndham?
You want to know something? This is what, and we're concerned about taking the HUD funds, being tied to HUD, having HUD be involved in this program. It wasn't just HUD funds, okay? Because that's how it was spun by the planning commissions. Well, you shouldn't be afraid of HUD funds because HUD's involved with your, redoing your roads and all these other types of programs that you've taken HUD money from. that's not the point. The point is that this goes far beyond a land use planning and resource program. And the carrot, there were two carrots. One was you'll get a seat at the table. So our selectmen said, well, okay, well, that's cool, so we'll have more of a say. Well, if you read this documentation, there's no guarantee that you sign that document, that you'll have a seat at the table. It says it right in their documentation. In fact, most of these committees are already formed. There's no more room on them. You have no say on who goes onto those committees. It says it in their documentation. The other carrot is, if you are part of this program, you will get some kind of special status, so you get 2 more points on your grant application if you apply for a federal grant at some point in the future. So for those 2 beans, okay, Jack got 3. We only got 2 beans, 2 points. That's what they signed on for, a seat at the table, which they have no guarantee of getting, and they can have anyway, even if they don't sign the document. It was clearly stated to our selectmen, although our selectmen were looking to get, a seat at one of the committees, of which there's no guarantee. And in another planning board meeting, which I watched online, they were told it doesn't make any difference. You can participate either way. So there's a lot of inconsistencies as to what's being said by the planning commissions, and the person who was there, the representative, he changed what he said from time to time to time. He was asked directly in the second meeting that they were making a presentation, would we, Windham, be bound by these legally binding agreements, as becoming part of this Granite State Future Program with HUD? And the answer was yes. When they came back the third time, when they were going to do the vote, the answer was, oh no, you won't, no. That's just the planning commissions, that has nothing to do with the towns. So, I've asked several attorneys to take a look at it. I haven't heard back from them yet, because I want to know who's lying. And I actually think, as a state rep, sir, one of the things I'm going to ask is that we have laws enacted so that if representatives on any level lie to the people, they need to be held accountable. Because we can't lie to the FBI, we can't lie to the police. That's a crime. It should go the other way too. So that's all I have to say, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Sounds like a gerrymandering attempt to me.
It does. It does.
Redistributing of votes.
Mr. Chairman, do we know who appoints the equity team and the people on it?
Well, we don't. The towns will not have any say.
The equity team is meeting in 2 days. It's already been put together. It's online on the National and Regional Planning Commission, who's on that team.
How were they chosen? Did they?
By the National and Regional Planning Commission. There was no vote. They were chosen.
And they picked them out of a hat, or they went to their house? How did their process work?
They chose based on a variety of different organizations that would be interested in being on such a committee.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, a question. For a town that does not sign on to this, what are the repercussions going to be?
Well, it's my understanding that they're going to produce a regional plan as well. They'll produce it either way. My concern, from my perspective, from my town, is that if you participate in this, you become complicit with that. And that analysis of impediments, I truly believe, from all the research that Eileen and I have done, will come back and haunt you when they turn around and implement this. That is a huge thing. They are pushing for equity on every level. And I'm talking about, they talk about health equity. Health equity.
They don't talk about equal access to housing. They talk about equal housing or equal quality housing.
They talk about equal outcomes, not equal opportunity.
Strong words, right.
And it's frightening.
Okay, my question was, what happens to a town if it does not sign on to this program?
They still get a vote at the final vote of the regional commission.
Okay.
And you can still participate through the Regional Planning Commission.
I mean,
If you choose to.
Is there a plan to come after those towns?
No.
enforce them somehow into this?
They will tell you no.
Can I talk to that? Yeah, go ahead. Okay, on the 19th, I attended a Granite State Future meeting put on by the Stratford Regional Planning Commission. At that meeting was Mike Goldberg, who is the Action Media's representative, who was essentially running the meeting. There was Cynthia Copeland, who was the executive director of the Stratford Regional Planning Commission, and there was the deputy mayor from Rochester. Rochester brought up that exact question and said, hey, we've got a whole new plan about a year ago, a master plan. What do we need to go through this all over again? And there was also a gentleman there by the name of Scooten. What's his first name? John Scooten, and he is the town administrator in Barrington. He piped up and supplied the answer. He said, if you don't join, we'll just do it without you. Well, I don't know what it is, but he said it twice. And Barrington is one of the members. Anybody else?
Want to talk about it?
I just want to talk about a few things and
GrokTV.